For my project today, I'm using a 9x12 white piece of drawing paper, a black crayon, a white crayon, and my watercolor set. My project today is going to focus on perspective or point of view. I'm going to use the idea of a snowman, and I'm going to talk about how where you stand changes your point of view or your perspective and how you're seeing things. So I have my paper set up so it's vertical, and what I did right now is just make an arc in one corner. And I'm thinking about making a snow person, and there's usually 3 snowballs that you roll. So this is going to be the bottom one, and the next would come the middle one, and it's overlapping, so I kind of have this crescent shape, and then the top one is even smaller. And what I've done here is I'm making kind of a low point of view, like I'm looking up from the bottom of a snowman. Generally, a snow person is the same size as a person. So if I'm looking from this point of view, either I'm very tiny or the snowman is really, really big. So from that perspective, I might see the bottom of their carrot nose. I might still see the arms peeking up over the top. And there might be a bit of a hat that I could see if it was at an angle. So there's my snow person, and again, I'm just seeing some of the details, like I'm looking up at it from below. Maybe there's a little bit of details of a coal mouth, and I might see some buttons. Now, the buttons are going to be smaller, just like the head is when it's further away, and they might get bigger as they get closer to the bottom where I am. So I can change the size. I could also have a scarf kind of rolling over the top of that one, and as it keeps coming down, it's a really long scarf, it will get bigger as it comes down towards the bottom. So I have this worm's eye or bug's eye point of view. I've decided that I'm going to do this project as a crayon resist. So next I'm going to use a white crayon, and what I can do is maybe my snow person is looking up because the snow is coming down. So I'm going to draw a lot of snowflakes, and I might have them very small up at the top, like they're actually coming down in the snow. And then maybe as I come towards the bottom of my paper, where I'm kind of located, I'll make my snowflakes bigger and maybe add some more details so they're closer to me. I'm drawing big shapes, and I know that it's always hard to see when I add my snowflakes with my white crayon because I am drawing right now on a white piece of paper, but I am going to use my watercolors. And if you've done a crayon resist before, you know that these wax crayons are going to resist the paint because they are made out of wax, and watercolors don't like to stick to wax. So I took my time and I added a lot of snowflakes. I'm going to tilt my paper so you can kind of see. I also pressed really hard to leave a lot of wax on my paper, and I broke another white crayon. So that's how hard I'm pressing, because I really want to leave a lot of wax on the paper. Because my next step is to use my watercolor paints, and I'm going to wet my brush, and I'm going to be using the water to paint the space, and I want those white snowflakes to be popping through my watercolor. Now, the only real color I'm adding here is going to be in my sky, so I'm not going to just leave it as blue. I'm going to think about, oop, I got a fuzzy on my brush. I'm going to think about having kind of a very colorful sky, like maybe the northern lights are showing. So I'm going to use a lot of water to move my paint around to make sure my snowflakes come through. And I'm not going to just use blues. I'm going to let that water really flow and make this beautiful, colorful sky. This watercolor project is a good example of what's called wet on wet. I used a lot of water when I was painting and I wet my paper first. And when I do that, the colors blend together very softly. If I didn't wet the paper, I tended to get these edges. And I didn't like that. I wanted it to be this smooth sky that looked like the northern lights kind of flowing across. So after I did those first few paint marks and I saw those edges, I started using the water first and wetting the paper and then adding the paint to the paper, and that way it spread in this soft kind of flowing way and I didn't see those brush marks. When you do that, that's called wet on wet because your paper's wet and you add wet paint to the paper.